Okay, this video lecture is just going to be a lecture to introduce the content of the course and the layout and logistics about how things are going to happen. What I'm going to start with is going through the syllabus, followed by a course website that I designed to help facilitate material to you. The syllabus is, you can find it in the course folder. The course folder is under, excuse me, ed slash courses slash meki slash 3510. So you are section O. You open up that folder and in it you'll find the syllabus. And that's where we're going to start. This syllabus was made especially for the section of lab in France. I'll try to go through the things here that are going to be pertinent to you. I'll skip over some information and rely on you reading it on your own to get it. The first thing you'll notice are my office hours, but again, of course, with the time difference, my office hours might not necessarily be exactly when you're free. So if you ever have questions about anything or need to talk to me, the best contact is through email. And if we need to talk via phone, we can work that out with Dr. Ruber. I'll come back to this page in a few minutes. ABET outcomes and course outcomes you can read on your own. I'm going to skip down to the grading, the way that this course grade will be divided. There's going to be what I call pre-experiment questionnaires or tests. So you guys, before you take each experiment, you are required to take a quiz. That quiz will be made available through the course website that I will talk about in a moment. You will take a total anywhere between 4 to 6, I think, total quizzes. Not all of the experiments will require a quiz, most will. And you will take the quiz and then following that, of course, you'll do the experiment. So the quizzes are worth a total of 10% of your grade. The next thing that's worth 30% are experiment memos. So at the after you complete each experiment, you are required to submit a document called an experiment memo, which is a summary of your results. The results will be that you need to submit will be indicated in the experiment handout. You are to submit one memo per group. That's worth 30% of your grade, the addition of all the memos throughout the semester. The next thing are experiment rating intensive exercises. So for each experiment, you will have to write a memo, and also as a separate deliverable, you're going to have to write up uh, uh, what would be a section of a technical report for that particular experiment. I'll go into that a little bit more later, but it's basically a rating intensive exercise, and you need to submit also one rating intensive exercise per experiment. So you will complete the experiment, you will hand in an experiment memo and also a writing intensive exercise. So that will be for each group. Each group will submit one memo and each group will submit one writing intensive exercise. That's worth 25% of your grade, the writing intensive exercises. And then for one experiment, you're going to have to write 2 drafts of a technical report. Basically, you write a technical report, I grade it, hand it back, and then you write a second draft. The first draft is worth 20% of your grade, and the second draft is worth 15% of your grade. And each individual person in the class is required to write their own technical report. Following this is attendance policy. Of course, you're required to attend every class, and also are listed here are the rules for the course in regards to academic integrity and computer use policy. Please read through that on your own time. Next, schedules and readings. This is basically a layout of when each experiment will occur. This will change, most likely in accordance to the activities that are planned for the semester while you're out there in France. Already, I think you're going to be starting experiment 1 sooner than what's indicated on this scheduled readings. But in terms of the order of the experiments, that will be as it's indicated here. So basically, this week it's a course intro. You'll probably end up doing experiment 1 this week as well, which is basically its introduction. Experiment 2 is A to D conversion. So if you notice here, under experiment 2, which I'll highlight, is right here. Experiment 2, you'll notice underneath it, there's the words written, writing intensive methods. So basically what that means is after you complete experiment 2, you will have to hand in an experiment memo as well as a method section. So that would basically be if you had to write a full-length technical report. A full-length technical report would have several sections, right? And one of those sections would be a method section. So for experiment 2, you have to write a method section, which would be the method section of a full-length technical report. Experiment 3 is first order systems. For that, you will hand in an experiment memo and also hand in a results section of what would be a full-length technical report. For experiment 2, it's frequency analysis, and with the experiment memo of experiment 4, you will also hand in an abstract. Experiment 5, second order systems, you will hand in an experiment memo for that, as well as discussion. Experiment 6, an introduction. And then experiment 7, modal analysis, is the experiment for which you'll write a full-length technical report. That technical report will be due in 2 weeks following the completion of the experiment. Same week as which you will have your last experiment of the semester. That's basically your last canned experiment, which is plate vibrations. Week following that, I will hand back your draft 1 of technical report, and you will begin your writing draft 2. And starting from that time, you will complete experiment 9, which is design your own experiment. That'll be something we'll discuss a little bit more as the time gets closer, but basically each group will design and conduct your own experiment. The following week of that, technical report draft 2 is due, then there's Thanksgiving recess, and then before the end of the semester, you need to complete experiment 9, which is design your own experiment, and hand in an abstract for that experiment. Okay, so the deliverables, or what you have to hand in for each experiment, is due the week following the completion of the experiment. Okay, so that's basically the whole syllabus in short. Again, please read the syllabus from top to bottom, just to make sure that you understand everything that's going on in this class. So what I want to do now is move on to introducing the course website. So if you scroll all the way to the second page of the syllabus, you'll see there's a header called course website page. And there's a link for the course website. It's on a Google site. You can go ahead and click on that, and up will come the course website. So this is what should come up when you click on that link, and go ahead and bookmark it. I'll go through this website and show you how to use it for the class. The first home page that you see, the home page here, is basically explaining most of what I just explained to you on the syllabus, although there is some more detail here, and I will go over it in a little while. Actually, I'll go over what's written on the home page here by just going through the whole website. On the left here, you'll see some the main parts of the website. First off, we're going to look at course assignments and due dates. You can see here there are 2 sublinks, GCC Main Campus and European, that should say ESC, not ISC, so I'll go ahead and change that. So that should probably say ESC when you guys first see that. So you go ahead and you click on European Study Center, and up will come the assignment due dates. Again, I might change this by the time you actually get to the website, but what this will list is each experiment, and underneath the experiment on a bullet point will be what you have to hand in for that particular experiment. So, for example, experiment 1, you will complete it, and then this should indicate week 3 because you're going to be doing experiment 1 on week 2 of the semester. So and I will change that but for week 3, you should see here, you should hand in 1 experiment memo, and you should save the memo file as memo underscore group number underscore experiment that should say experiment1.doc. And what you're going to do is that you're going to take that and you're going to go ahead and submit it into the in folder of the course folder, basically handing it in the same way that you handed in assignments for thermodynamics. Then for experiment 2, you see that there's 2 assignments due for experiment 2 the week following you complete the experiment. An experiment memo, like what you did for experiment 1, as well as a writing intensive assignment. In this case, the writing intensive assignment is writing a method section. Again, in parentheses following, you'll see how to name the file, and then you put that file into the in folder of the course folder. The next main section is experiments. So you'll go ahead and again click on European Study Center, and here you will see each experiment listed and a link underneath the experiments. Those links will bring you to the experiment handout. So you click on it and up comes the experiment handout. What I would suggest that you do is download the handout by clicking on the download button on the top of the page there. The reason being is that if you try to read the experiment handout just by using Google Docs, sometimes the equations and or pictures don't show up correctly. But if you go through it, you can see the experiment handout has instructions, and it also indicates a section that's going to be what you would use, what you would need to have instruction for in order to complete your experiment memo. So this particular experiment one has 2 or 3 sections, I believe 3 sections to it. You go ahead and follow the instructions where basically it says start copy after this line. So you're going to copy and paste a section of the experiment handout and paste it into a template that I will give you and show you a little later. You will copy and paste that into the experiment memo template and then answer the questions. So that's for experiment 1. Same thing, experiment 2. You'll see that there's a handout there. There's another link also, experiment 2, writing intensive assignment, instructional video. What's that mean? Basically, since I'm not there to lecture, I have taken down the video because I'm going to I have a new video link that I'm putting up. But when you click on experiment 2, writing intensive assignment instructional video, up should come a video that explains how to write a method section. And basically all it does is take you through the resources available on the website that help teach you how to write a method section. The reason why I'm doing it this way is that I used to give writing lectures at the beginning of the semester, and then students would have to, later in the semester, write a technical report. But there was a big disconnect between what I taught in the lecture and what students understood about writing, basically equating to the fact that the lectures didn't really teach students how to write. Of course, it's something that you practice. So the best way that I thought to do it was provide resources for you to read through that help you understand the basics on how to go about starting to write a technical report, and then give you opportunities to practice. So these writing intensive assignments give you opportunities, at least in a group effort, as a group effort, to write sections of a technical report. And what the videos do is just take you through the resources on the website that help you to do that. So you'll see that there are writing intensive videos for each section. So results, for experiment 3, if you click on that, up should come a video. Most of these videos were made last year. I'm replacing a few of these as we go along. So whether or not the links are active at this point, they should be active by the time that you need them when you actually get to that experiment. So basically, before you get to lab, you need to read the experiment handout, and then the experiment writing intensive assignment instructional video is there for you when you are about to write your section for that particular experiment. The next thing you'll see is pre-lab questionnaire. Again, click on European Study Center, and up come your experiments here that will be active links just before you're about to get to class. So basically, when you get to class, you should see the link that will be active, and you click on the experiment that you're going to be doing that day. And what will happen is it'll bring up a Google form, which is basically a quiz that you'll take that will test whether or not you actually read the experiment handout. They will not be complicated questions. They will be multiple choice. And the answer for those forms should be very straightforward if you took the time to read the experiment handout before going to class. The only other things to note is that there's 3 more links here to note. One is called Technical Report Draft 1. And when you look at Technical Report Draft 1 link, what I have here is some material that I took from North Carolina State University's Lab Writing Center, and I modified it a little bit for our needs. But basically, here you'll see the sections of a lab report laid out and instructions basically on how to write it, and some limitations in terms of length that I put there. And what this link technical report draft 1 is supposed to do is take you through the steps on how to write those particular sections of the technical report when you're sitting down for the first time to write it up. And it's also in order of how you should write it. So if you're writing a full-length technical report, most of the time you start with a methods section. Why methods? Because the methods is what you just completed. It's just what you did when you finished the experiment. You just went through the methods, so it's fresh in your mind. So that should be the first thing you write up, followed by results and so on. I'm not going to go through everything here because the instructional video is due, but these are resources you would go to for writing your first draft. And then you have draft 2. And what draft 2 is basically you've already written it, and what it does is that it gives you instruction on what to look for when you go back and read what you already wrote in order to make improvements to it. I'll come back to this one in a second. I should take a minute and explain a little bit about what this technical report is. The way that I treat the assignment is interesting, and it's worked really well. I treat it as if you just wrote a manuscript that you're going to submit to a technical journal for publication. So what I mean by technical journal is not popular science, but journals that scientists publish their work in and their findings in. A scientist, a researcher will come up with something, whether it's experimental result, an analytical finding, or anything of the sort, and then present the results in the form of a technical report or a journal article. And those are written as manuscripts. They're submitted to a journal, such, for example, the ASME Journal of Heat Transfer, or the International Journal of Heat and Mass Transfer, Journal of Fuel Cell Science. There's several journals out there. Each journal has a specific field that it focuses in on. Some are very specific, some are a little more broad. And a researcher would write a manuscript, submit it to a journal, and the first step is for the editor to look at the manuscript to see if the content is appropriate for the subject matter of the technical journal. If the editor says to himself or herself, sure, it is, then the editor will send the manuscript out to anywhere from 2, sometimes up to 4 different reviewers. And what reviewers are other researchers that are in the same field that you are, or close to the same field. And those researchers will take your article or your manuscript, read through it, and give critique, write up comments, and then respond back to the editor with a recommendation in the form of the following. It could be a recommendation for acceptance without changes, a recommendation for acceptance with minor or major changes, or maybe even an outright rejection. So the editor takes back the comments from each reviewer, consolidates it all, and makes a decision as to whether or not they're going to accept the journal with major, minor revisions, no revisions, or outright rejection. So the editor could probably give it back and say, okay, we will accept this as long as you make the changes that the reviewers suggested. And then the author will take the manuscript and make all the changes that they possibly can. And then on top of making the changes, respond to each individual comment that each reviewer made, indicating where in the second draft those changes were addressed, or maybe even refute some of the comments or answer questions that the reviewers have. So then the author would submit a second draft, and then as a separate document, a list of changes that indicate underneath each comment the reviewers made, indicating where those changes took place in the second draft that addressed the comments that the reviewers made. So how does that translate into what I'm doing for the class? You guys are the author. You're going to write a technical report. You're going to submit it to me, and I'm going to be a reviewer. I'm going to read through each individual report, write up a list of comments. Those comments can number anywhere from 10 to 40. I will submit back to you your first draft with a list of comments and also a grade based on a rubric that I will show you in a minute. That will then you will take the first draft and all the comments. You will go ahead and make changes for a second draft. So basically edit the first draft to make a second draft. Submit that to me, and on top of that, submit a second document, which is going to be a list of changes in which you are going to indicate under each comment I made what you did in the second draft and where the changes are located in the second draft that address my comment. And then your second draft grade will be based on how well you address the comments I made for your first draft. So your first draft grade and your second draft grade are both independent of each other. So how do I grade it? Under Forms and Documents, you will see a link for several different documents. One is called Technical Report Draft 1 Evaluation. That is the evaluation that I use to grade your technical report. When I grade each individual writing assignment, what I mean by writing assignment are the individual sections of a lab report that you write for each experiment. So for example, experiment 2, you need to write a method section. I will copy and paste this portion of the technical report draft 1 evaluation. I will copy and paste that into Excel spreadsheet, and you'll be graded on your method section based on these 3 rubrics. And then I will go ahead and give you a grade out of 15. And the same for each of the other rubrics. And that's where Technical Report Draft 2 link from the website comes into play. Basically what it does is that it goes through each section of the lab report and highlights each rubric. So if I go back to the method section, for example, those three comments, those 3 rubrics that I just mentioned are indicated here, and underneath is text that will explain to you what you can do to your already written method section to improve upon it. So I give you resources on how to write the first draft, and then resources on how to go back to the first draft and make improvements to it. So for each writing assignment, you will be able to go through it twice, at least, writing it once and then going through it to make improvements. So make sure you take a look at Technical Report Draft Evaluation in order to see how I am going to grade your writing assignments. On top of that, there are several other documents. There's a syllabus here. There's an experiment memo template, which is basically what you're going to use to hand in your experiment memos. Take note of this, though. The cover sheet for the experiment memo has this statement here. It basically says by signing the front cover that that indicates that each of you in a group have contributed to the completion of that experiment and of the work basically that you're handing in. Basically, it's saying that no one of you did all the work for everyone else. There is also an evaluation, experiment memo evaluation, which basically shows you how I'm going to evaluate the grade for your memo. There's a writing intensive assignment template, which is the template you use for handing in your writing assignment. Again, the same method here for making sure that all of you work on it together is implemented. You just sign the front cover. And Technical Report Draft 2 evaluation, I'll go over that at a later time. There's also a Technical Report example. So here I have an example of technical reports unrelated to any experiment you're doing. But if you read through that, it basically gives you an idea of what it should sound like for each section, how each section should look, and also some notes at the end of each section to kind of give you an idea of what to look for. And then draft 2, list of changes. This is just an example of the list of changes that you would submit for the draft 2 of your technical report. All of which I'll go over more later when the time comes for you to actually write the technical report. Okay, so that's about it. I hope that this is clear. If you guys have, if there's any confusion with any of this, please just let me know um, by email or so, and I'll do what I can to answer. And if you need to talk to me on the phone, of course, we can arrange that with Dr. Ruber as well. Okay, I think that's about it for now. And I will, again, talk to any of you by email if there's any other questions you might have. Thank you.